Hey there, welcome to my YouTube channel again. So in this video we're gonna learn how can we create our project architecture. So I had created a new project for React Native. You can simply run commands for React Native init and give any name to your project. So I had just given my chat. So by writing this command and after hit enter, it will gonna create a new project for you for React Native. So I had just created a new project. Let's speak about the folder structure we're gonna follow in this series. So all of code I gonna put inside a source folder. Let's give it a name of src, and inside src folder I gonna create some subfolder as well. So let's create them. um, First of all, I'm gonna create a folder for components. All of part related to UI I'm gonna store here, like our button, text, input, or card. So I'll write the UI part inside my component. And one more thing, like every folder have its index.js file. Basically what I'm gonna do, like I'm just not gonna import everything from individual file, as I'm gonna create a folder which represent something unique. So from its index file we're gonna take export thing or import things. So let's create another folder called container.js. Okay, and similarly it has its index.js file as well. So just paste here. Currently I'm not gonna write anything. Let me complete the folder architecture first, then we're gonna start write the code. I think by mistake I had given here .js. Okay, now it's fine. And new folder I'm gonna create for our context, as I'm going to use a context API, and one more folder for navigation that will store our navigation part. In this series I'm going to use stack navigation. Also there is folder will be folder for utility. Inside it I'm going to create just like a style helper or colors or constant that are reusable throughout the application. And next folder I'm gonna create for async storage. Inside it I'm gonna just write some method for async storage, like get async storage or set async storage or clear async storage. So I do not need to write method again. I just call that specific method, and I'm able to use the value of my async storage. And next folder I'm going to create for Firebase. Inside it I'm gonna just write my config file there. So let's create a subfolder for utility as well. First folder it gonna create take its colors, and next folder it gonna take the constants that are reusable throughout the application, and next folder it will take style helper. Like if I speak about the theme, like uh, style helper will contain the folder of app style. Like every application has its unique theme, and if you are fetching the theme value from a place, like its background color or text input size you are taking, so that's pretty good. It will help you to create a responsive design. Also you can make it scalable if you want to change anything for a specific field. You just need to change value at once, and it will reflect throughout the application. So and one thing I forgot to, I need to my index.js file for style helper as well. Now that's about our folder structure we're gonna follow in this application. Now let's speak about the library. So in my package.json, you can simply pause the video and install all of the dependency, or you can just find my package.json file from GitHub and simply use this. So let's speak about this. First of all, I'm gonna use Firebase. Basically, it help us to communicate with Firebase. And the next one, native base. Specifically, I'm gonna use native base just for design the card, and all of design I'll write from the scratch. There is not much part I'm using from native base. I'm just using a card component, and all of design I'm using like a custom. Okay, and next is React Native Image Picker. That help us to take the pictures from camera, or take picture from your gallery. And for icons, I'm gonna use React Native vector icons just for like our logout icon or send button or camera icon of this. And next thing, you have to use React navigation to navigate between the screens. So for this I'm using React navigation stack. It has its further dependency like React navigation native. Also it use masked view as well, and gesture handler it's used, and also React native screens is used by this. And next thing I'm library speak about I'm gonna use async storage from React Native community. Okay, this help us to store data in our async storage whenever you're gonna kill the application and it is not running in the background, but its storage are still there. Like it help us to maintain user session. Its storage will only delete when you uninstall the application. Now let's write some code. Okay, just the UI part I'm gonna start with the next video. And in this video, as I told already, this is our basic project setup. So first of all, let's start from async storage and make its entry file index.js. So first of all, we need to import async storage. Oops, I had wrote misspell, and it's from React Native community async stories. That's all. And what I'm going to do next thing, I'm gonna write the key. Like everywhere, I do not need to write the string or have to remember the name of a string I'm gonna use. So I just simply write keys. By using keys dot dot, it will automatically show you hint which thing you are gonna use. So here I'm gonna just save the unique ID for the user, and I'm giving it name of UUID. Let's write the function of set async storage. This will be an arrow function, and also it's an async function. So first params it will take key, and second param it will take the item. What it's going to do, I'm gonna use here try catch block, and inside here error I'm gonna just console dot log error if there any error occur while setting the async storage. And inside the try block I'm just use await, as I'm using async function, and async storage dot set item, and it gonna set our key and item. Key is name of our key, and item will contain the value. Similarly, next function I'm going to use for get async storage. Simply copy this one and paste here. For get async storage, I do not need to item. I just pass my key and I'll able to get the value of this. So async storage dot there should be I think there should be get item, sync storage get item, and I have to pass only key here. And also I'm gonna just store it inside value. And here I have to check like if value is not equal to null, or if I'm gonna say like if value, then return only value. If there is value, then return value, else do nothing, or we can say else return null. Also for catch block, I'm gonna just return null. If there is any error occur, then it will not able to get its async storage. That's all. And next thing, for the clear async storage, like if I had set the async storage, I need to clear it. So give it a method name of clear async storage. It is just gonna clear the async storage, so I can just simply write it as an arrow function, and mark here try catch. And for error, I'm gonna just write here error, and make it async function. And I just wait for clear the async storage. So async storage dot clear. So it gonna clear all of my async storage if I had store anything. So I just need to export all of this function I had created: set async storage, set async storage, get async storage, and clear async storage. So that's all. Like now I'll able to use all of these method throughout my application. Now let's move to our next component that I have to use globally. It is our Firebase. In upcoming video, we'll set up Firebase to our application. Here I'm just gonna write the methods, global method that we have to use throughout our application. So as we had already installed Firebase library, so just uh, take Firebase from the Firebase library, Firebase from, and what I need to do, I just here write my configuration. So Firebase config, and here I had to pass my API key that will get when we create the uh, database and project on the Firebase. Also next thing, I need to my database URL. So database URL, this gonna be a string as well. Next thing, I have to use my project ID that I'll get when I register my project on Firebase. And also I need my app ID. That's all. Now I have to export it default. So export default Firebase dot initialize app, and inside I had to pass my configuration. So that's all. Now we had created a configuration for our Firebase as well. So we had created our all of like Firebase and async storage. All of these method we have to use globally, and all of these method are reusable throughout the application. Now let's speak about our utility part. Inside colors, I had to just pass some basic color which I'm going to use in our application. That's like if make a comment. This one is warning color, So I'm gonna export const, and this is warning. And for warning color, I'm gonna use a string for RGB, and give it value of red should be 231, and 76 should be green, and 60 should be blue. So this is the warning color I'm gonna use. Now write the color for theme. For theme, I'm gonna use black color. So export const black, and it is equal to RGB, and nothing to pass it. So this is our black color. I think I had to write extra comma here. That's why I'm thinking like why it was not highlighting. And also I have to use dark gray color for my filled background, like export const dark underscore gray, and this gonna take the value of RGB, and for dark gray I'm giving value of 46, and 46. Yeah, this should be fine. Okay, that's all. Currently I'm using all of these color, and just to make it comment here. Okay, now let's move to our next file, that is our constant. So inside constant, make its file index.js, and what I'm going to use is export const uuid. Now what's a constant mean? Like uh, whenever I use my async stories method to store any async stories or get async stories, so I will just after fetch value at once, I'm gonna store it in constant file. So it's mean like whenever I use whenever I need to reuse that value in my application, so I just simply fetch it from a variable. I do not need to call method again and again. So that is helpful for us. And for also export const, that will help us to set the value it's of unique ID. So unique value, pass it params of u, and this is an arrow function, and uuid is equal to u, and since I had defined here const, it will be let. So that's fine. Also one more variable I'm going to use here, export const for a small device height. Let's I'm assuming it 650 for now, and if there need any change, we'll do it through in our application also. And I have to use my keyboard offset. I think that's fine for now. We'll use it next whenever it is required. That's all. Now move to next. It is our style helper. Here I'm going to use my app style, which will the theme of our app. So style helper, let's create its index.js file, and use index.js file here as well. Inside here I have to use like all of style what I'm gonna use in my application. So we'll define it whenever we're gonna create the components. So I'm gonna I'll just skip this file for right now. Now from the utility, at we have our index.js file here. It will work as import and export, so I have to use import star as color from my colors file, and I have to use my import I think I have to write anything in app style file, so we'll do it later. So just export color for right now. Later on when we work on design part, I'll import here my app style file, or I'll write something in a global style, so we do not need to write style again and again. So that's all of this project setup I have to use. So let's review one thing once again. uh, I had just in utility created my color file constant that are reusable throughout the application. This is our folder architecture, and for async stories I had write method for get set and clear async stories, and in Firebase config file I'll um, I'll put value when we set up our Firebase project. So that's all for this video. In next video we'll do setup for Firebase.